everybody, and welcome to the fourth round of the World Challenge Touring Car Championship at Mosport, the Toyo Tires Victoria Day Speed Fest, presented by Optima Batteries. Let's get down to Tom Natchew.
All right, here we are in Victory Circle for the ceremonial coin toss. Eric Foss, Pierre Kleinubing, Charles Espenlaub, Jason Saney, and Peter Cunningham joining us. Eric, it's deja vu, baby. Toss the coin, let it hit the ground, call it in the air. If you win the toss, the grid stays the same. If you lose, the grid inverts. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go for
it. Tails.
We're gonna need a ruling on this. Ladies and gentlemen, the coin toss stood on its end. And of all the things we anticipated, we never saw that coming. Let's do it again. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Toss the coin.
Tails.
Heads, it is. The grid inverts, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk to Peter Cunningham briefly. Peter, you have a way of doing this. Tails never fails.
Well, you know, he should have thrown it right the first time, but that's the way it worked out.
All right, the grid inverts here at Mosport International Raceway. We have an opportunity to look at Mosport International Raceway from kind of a unique perspective. You got Tony Rivera inside the Taxmaster's car. Greg, normally we show you where you're going. This time we're showing you where you've been. Mosport, one thing, Greg, you've got to be smooth.
Well, it's such high speed that any radical inputs on the car, if you upset it, it's going to be big. So many high-speed corners, 2, 4, certainly when we get a little bit further around 8. But this corner right here, Tom, probably the most important on the track.
Well, it leads on to the long straightaway. We call it the Mario Andretti more or less straightaway. And as we said in the last race, what a lot of people don't recognize is you're actually elevating 10 stories here. The whole trip up this back straightaway is not only kind of serpentine, but you're also under full power because you're going up a hill. Here's turn 8, Greg.
And the approach speed's there, almost 160 miles an hour in a GT car, and let's get this race started.
From our friends at Optima Batteries, gentlemen, start your engines!
The engines come to life, and that is a sweet sound, the tradition of racing at this level at this time of year at Mosport.
The Victoria Day weekend, we call it the May 2-4 in Canada. We're ready to get underway with touring cars from World Challenge right after these messages.
We are back in Mosport. Time for the starting lineup for this fourth round of the World Challenge Touring Car Championship. Remember, the grid inverted, so Petey Cunningham, qualified 5th, gets the gift. Points leader Jason Saney alongside. Charles Espenlaub back with some serious speed. Great to see. 4-time champion Pierre Kleinubing. 4 wins here, by the way. And Eric Foss, what a story, Tom. 2 races here, 2 poles.
He's done an amazing job. He's had some bad luck this season, but Eric Foss is a remarkable driver. There's Kuno Whitmer back again, next to Seth Thomas. Toby Grahovic and Nick Kasayan make up that row number 5.
Good to see the BMWs, who didn't really fare too well in the damp conditions, looking as you might expect them to in the dry. And we are ready to get this one underway. The grid clearing. Remember, the red lights go out. We go racing. And here we go. Petey Cunningham from that front row starting spot. Jason Saney up alongside. Charles Espenlaub looks way down to the inside. He is inside of Petey Cunningham, and Eric Foss, man, did he get a launch from that 5th starting spot. Look at where Eric is right now. And Espenlaub trying to stay put, but this is going to give Petey the inside line for turn 2.
What turns from the inside line to the outside line in turn number 2, not going to be sustainable. There's a shot of James Clay. He's starting from pit lane. Not a good weekend for him.
And getting underneath Espenlaub, just that quick look at James Clay, and Eric Foss has gone from 5th into 2nd. Well, that's still maybe a bit debatable. Now he takes a look down the inside. No, not going to happen. Unbelievable launch for Eric Foss. Obviously not well pleased with the coin toss and wanted to rectify that right now.
Eric Foss getting busy here as those 3 tri-point cars separating the 2 new style real-time racing Acura TSXs. This World Challenge race has got all 3 manufacturers in the top 6 right now.
And look at this, Foss getting a much better run through Moss Hairpin all over the back of Cunningham as they climb the Andretti straightaway. You get a good indication there of the elevation gain you make down that long straight. And that incredible exit out of 5, so important. Here we go. He's swinging to the outside. The savvy Petey Cunningham going to protect the inside. Down into turn 8. You can go 2x2 through here, but it's got to work. Petey slides. Oh, and he collects Foss. Foss goes around. The back end on Petey's car just stepped out, Tom. He tried to save it. That got him into Foss.
Actually, he did a pretty good job saving that car, keeping it straight down the track. Eric Foss is going to rejoin at the back, but what a save by Eric Foss. Incidental contact, Greg, or what do you think?
Oh, I think so. You can see Petey had just got loose on him, I think, there, Tom. And when he corrected, he just sort of understeered right into Foss.
One more lesson for Eric Foss. Side by side through 8. Can happen, but it can have its perils as well. Meanwhile, we've got a whole new patina on this race.
Well, and just taking the charge up is Charles Espenlaub. When Foss went away, here comes another of those blue tri-point cars, and he already is starting to hound Petey Cunningham. And the back end of Petey's car looks a little skatey right now. It may be fast, but it's fast loose, and at Mosport, ooh.
Fast loose is effective, but it's also scary. Let's look at the replay now from Eric Foss's point of view. We've got two images here. As you can see, the deeper image, that is looking out his windshield. Now we look out the side. He literally just drives right by Pierre Kleinubing. That's the mark of a very good start. Think back one race ago when he didn't start at all. This is working out better for him. Now he's alongside Jason Saney, one of his teammates, and then looks down the outside of turn number 2 and says, okay, I'll have this if I must, and drives straight by Charles Espenlaub. What a drive from the standing start here at Mosport International Raceway.
Just an incredible launch, and obviously then had the little tink down in turn 8, and that got him off track. But boy, no respite for PD as he's got those two blue tri-point cars of Espenlaub and Saney, and then Kleinubing right in tow, and then Seth Thomas and that BMW, that gear wrench BMW from Pirelli World Racing. Nice to see them right back on the pace here in these dry conditions. But up front, Petey Cunningham. And tell you what, the development of this new car, Tom, the new regulations, much more stock, watching the progression, it's been pretty amazing, and the speed clearly there.
Well, you know, with the whole new package, it helps to have real-time racing developing it. They've been in this business so long, they know exactly how to do it. But I think we can say that the book is closed. These cars can be competitive, as competitive with the 2008 models, and this is what their opportunity is. They may have a chance to win their first race here with one of these distinctive cars with the black rear quarter panels. Look at that shot in turn number 5. That is Mosport. You know, there's a couple hundred people sitting there on Moss Corner, and that's why they buy the ticket, Craig.
Just an incredible view. The racing exceptional down there. And again, the launch so key, getting you onto this long, almost mile long. As you said, not so straightaway, but it is so important. And look at this train, and then Foss. And the problem for Foss, he is already clicking off some unbelievably fast lap times, but this entire grid, as you mentioned, Tom, a little small due to the economy and the border crossing and the like, but still, this entire grid covered by just a tick over a second. Foss has some serious work in front of him.
That is incredible. You know, we had a message up from pit lane and Petey Cunningham's team saying that, yes, the car is loose, but their setup is set up in such a way that they're hoping that the car is going to tighten up partway into the race on these production Toyo tires. This is the R888 brand. This is the same tire that you can buy at the dealer. You know, and I believe if you're going to race production cars, you race them on production tires, baby.
And race them they do. There's no question of that. An unbelievable race we've seen unfolding, not just here thus far, but already this season and throughout the Reign of World Challenge. They have oftentimes, in fact most of the time, run on DOT tires and have shown what they are capable of, and we're seeing it again. As now Petey has got a little bit, that's about as big a gap as he's had, a whole 2 car lengths over Espenlaub, as he's working down through turn 3, heading toward turn 4. As this one continues to unfold, but really nothing between that lead group of 5 cars right now.
Yeah, they're doing a great job, and it's great to see Charles Espenlaub back at the front here. Although Mosport, most notorious for going off in turn number 3 with a mechanical problem. Look at that, Greg.
Huge slide right there, and I think that may have been Toby Grahovic. A little bit further back in the pack, completely sideways, and Moss, again, you've got to get such a good exit out of there. And Nick Whitmer maybe trying to take advantage. But it's just so important to get that launch, but you make that little mistake, huge in terms of cost.
Yeah, it does cost you a lot. What I was referring to before about Charles Espenlaub, you know, he broke down in turn number 3 a couple of years ago. He climbed up into the grandstands, had a beer with some fans, got caught on TV, was fined by that, but he's endeared himself to Canadians ever since. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Mosport. Greg Creamer along with Tom Natchew, and it is round 4 World Challenge Touring Cars at this legendary venue, and putting on another great show. Petey Cunningham in the Acura, the Redline Oil real-time Acura up front, continues to hold on over the 2 tri-point cars of Charles Espenlaub and Jason Saney. the Mazda Speed entries, and he is anything but comfortable at this point in time.
You know, he's certainly got nothing to be comfortable about because those two guys have the opportunity to team up and draft a little bit. And plus, it's still early days in the race. Although I must say, by the look of him, his car in turn number 5, that loose condition started to dial back out again, just as the team said it was. There's some side-by-side racing action right there for you, Greg.
Absolutely. It looked like Pierre Kleinhuben getting a run on Nick Asayan and making the pass. We've already seen Seth Thomas has moved up and into that 4th spot. Boy, and PD now really starting to open it up. So what you were talking about earlier, if they had that car set up to come to him just a little bit with the track conditions, you're right, time is right now, isn't it?
Things have changed a little bit, Greg, since we came back from the break. Pierre Kleinhuben has been overtaken by Seth Thomas and by his teammate Kuno Whitmer. So Pierre Kleinhuben has some work to do. He's won here 4 times, and people buy tickets here at Mosport just to watch him race, Greg.
Oh, one of the most spectacular drivers, certainly some of the world-class car control, and everybody just goes back to a battle he had years ago, a guy named Taz Harvey. And you think about great moments at Mosport, Pierre in the middle of so many of them with that great success. And he may have been passed by Seth and right in front of him his teammate Kuno, but look at this, he closes right back up on the bumper as they come out of turn 5. Meanwhile, up at the front, P.D. Cunningham, as that red line Acura starts to really come together, he is continuing to pull away from Espinlab. Keep in mind, 3rd car here, Jason Saney in that Tri-Point Racing Hard Mazda Speed Mazda is your points leader and looking at another podium. The guy has been a podium machine this year.
You know, Rookie of the Year and part of that Mazda ladder system, Jason Saney has his eyes set on winning the championship. You know, Greg, that's something that's always been his goal, to compete and win the World Challenge Championship from the time he first started racing, and it looks like 09 might be the season where he can really pull it off.
And right now, with the way Petey's starting to gap him a little bit, these two guys, Tom, I would think the best thing they could do is just work together, let Jason get right up underneath Charles and draft, push, whatever they need to do to try and reel Petey back in.
You know, that is an excellent strategy here at Mosport because of that mile-long straightaway. Plus, in the gap between 3 and 4, you know, you're going as fast there, almost as fast as you are on the back straightaway. So there's plenty of opportunity for drafting. But Jason Saney first has to catch Charles Espinlab. That's kind of a tall order.
Well, true enough, a well-motivated Espinlab at a track he loves. And then there's that battle with Seth Thomas, Kuno Whitmer, Pierre Kleinhuben behind as we watch Charles Espinlab. Boy, great to see him running as competitive as he is this weekend here up into Moss Hairpin. Oh, Asayan runs a little wide, and it looks as though it was Foss who got down underneath him. Let's take a look. We're on board with Eric Foss, and indeed, here we go. Asayan, boom, that's close quarters racing. And you know what? That's why Nick Asayan is here.
And it was rough and it was exciting. And when you look at these cars and you look at the manufacturers and you look at the drivers that are involved, you know, in a dry race, you might even have a second between 1st and 12th. And there's no other series in the world that's like that. I love these BMWs, the tracks we go to. We race with some other great series, IndyCar series, ALMS. But World Challenge is really, really, really the tightest, closest racing. 55 minutes. It's like a Supercross and a KISS concert and World Wrestling Federation all mixed into one.
Now that's entertainment, Tom.
That's total entertainment. Way to go, Nick Asayan. I never really looked at World Challenge that way, but now I'm going to have trouble not looking at World Challenge that way. The flag's still blowing down the direction of the front straightaway, and so is Peter Cunningham.
Boy, he has really had a great run, but you see now that Espinlab has in fact started to take some of that margin back, and as a matter of fact, Espinlab just turned fastest lap in the race thus far, as they certainly are starting to find it and make the charge. Here's that great battle for 4th, still in the hands of Seth Thomas. And Tom, you talked about the wind, the flag's blowing. It is a beautiful sunny day here, but it is cold and windy, and that has its effects as well.
You can see it in the costumes of some of the corner workers. They're no longer dressed in white. They've got their parkas on. But the cool air here at Mosport Park pays dividends into these engines. The cooler and denser the air, the more horsepower you get. The problem is, Greg, is that everybody's got more horsepower.
Yeah, it really affects everybody equally, and that just promotes some great racing, which we continue to see throughout the pack. This battle for the lead, 3 cars, Cunningham and the 2 Tri-Point Mazdas. The battle for 4th, Seth Thomas is disappearing behind one of those steep climbs. Coming into view here, all over the back of him is Kuno Whitmer and then Pierre Kleinhuben. Tremendous racing. And you know, in the first 3 rounds of this championship, Tom, we've seen 3 different winners. we may see a fourth here today if Petey can hang on, and what a story that would be.
Well, it would be his 32nd win at World Challenge. It would be his 80th professional win overall. World Challenge, lap 18 of 28. There are your leaders. We'll be back with more World Challenge right after this.
We're back as we close in on the end of this fourth round of the World Challenge Touring Car Championship. Petey Cunningham continues to hold on. Here's that great battle for fourth. Kuno Whitmer taking a little look, trying to get down the inside and at least rattle out of BMW of Seth Thomas. Not quite able to get it done right there. And of course the problem is if one of these guys tries something, Pierre will pounce. There's no question of that. But up front, Tom, it looks like Cunningham and Espinlaub maybe looking to make this a mano-a-mano duel for the win.
I agree with you, Greg. You got to believe that Charles Espinlaub is going to take a shot, and you've got to believe that Pierre Kleinube is going to try to take a shot too. This is last lap action.
It is fierce. This is what World Challenge is all about. Some great racing, and on one of the great tracks as well. Here we go, down into turn 4. One of those corners that always gets everybody's attention. Such high speed, fall away, and then down into this crucial Moss hairpin. And boy, you don't want to make a mistake late in the race here. Everybody up front looks good for those two. Here comes Saney. And Petey Cunningham able to make it work. Here we go, and look at this. Kuno Whitmer taking a look down the inside. Oh, and it pinched him, and underneath goes Kleinube. Just what you were talking about. Kuno tried to be a little too aggressive, and Pierre was waiting for it.
Ironically, Kuno Whitmer in the same spot that he made up room on the rain race one day ago. He uses it to his disadvantage this time. There you can see he tries to go inside the BMW, bounces over the curb, and Pierre Kleinube, in classic racing fashion, says, I'll have that.
Well, even though these aren't prototypes that are just a whisker off of the ground, you still pound that curb hard enough, it will upset the car, and Whitmer now pays the price. Now, though, he's looking to maybe do the outside around here going into 8, but Pierre pretty savvy. He's not going to let that happen. Here we go. Last lap. White flag flies, and Petey Cunningham has nothing but blue and white from the tri-point Mazda of Espinlaub in his mirrors. Seth Thomas comes by. That little bit of argument between Kleinube and Whitmer gives Seth just a bit of breathing room as he starts this last lap. We'll see whether, obviously, he's going to be able to make use of that, or whether Pierre, now well motivated, is able to run him down. This is good stuff here as we work on this last lap.
Charles Espinlaub had an opportunity to talk to us just a little earlier on in the weekend.
You know, the ladder system's been around. It's a great thing Mazda's been doing for a while. I always kind of joke, I was actually kind of there when Jim Jordan and those guys went into the woods to build the ladder. I was kind of leaning against the tree. So, you know, I'm really good friends with Jason and Eric. I've been working with them for a long time before this. So, you know, my approach is, you know, I learn just as much from them as they can from me. And, you know, it's a great synergy. It's a great family that we got going on.
Well, and obviously the schooling works both ways. I mean, you take a look as Espinlaub takes a look at what Foss has been able to accomplish, what Saney has done, and that's all because of Espinlaub. And Espinlaub right now trying everything he can. Not going to be enough, and Petey Cunningham gets the win. As you said, his 32nd. That just extends the record he had. Meanwhile, here we go. No, Kleinube not quite close enough to get the job done on Seth Thomas. And, boy, look at that. The corner workers, they have watched a good one. They're letting the drivers know they appreciate it. And maybe the big story here for Petey, it's his first win since 07 at Laguna, the finale, as you take a look at the results, but the first for one of the new rule cars. And that is a very significant moment for the future of the series, particularly when one of those cars is in the hands of Petey Cunningham.
It was great right off the bat. I got a good start. Just tried to pull out a lead there, and everything was fine, but I think I used up my tires a little bit too much. And then the two blue cars were coming, but I put my head back down. Boys were giving me splits from the pits, so I knew where we were at, and I just drove as hard as I could. And again, at the end, Charles was making another bid, but we were low on gas at that point and still had a little bit of tire left, so it worked out okay. Thanks to Acura. This is the first win for the new generation Acura TSX, so we're real proud of that. And on to round 5 at Watkins Glen.
Another great venue. It should be a great race. 6 weeks before that race unfolds, so everybody gets to mull over the championship. And, folks, it is close. Saney's podium keeps him atop, but look how close the battle is in the Drivers' Championship. A little bit more of a gap for Acura in the manufacturers battle. And speaking of manufacturers, when we come back, GT.
From your friends at Optima Battery, gentlemen, start your engines!
And that's for World Challenge GT, but first we have to take a look at the points. Eric Kern, 4th in New Jersey on the track, but disqualified for an illegal throttle body. As a result, Brandon Davis now leads in the points. It affected manufacturer points too, and of course all of those will jumble after this 4th round of the GT Championship. It's time for the Toyo Tires Victoria Day Speed Fest presented by Optima Batteries, and the coin toss for round 4. Here's Tom.
Brandon Davis, Eric Curran, Andy Pilgrim, Jason Daskalos, and Randy Pobst. Brandon, you are the pole sitter. You're going to flip this coin, let it hit the ground, call it in the air. If you win the toss, the grid stays the same. If you lose the toss, then the grid inverts. Are you ready?
Yep.
Take care of it, please. The grid inverts, ladies and gentlemen, and Randy Pobst gets payback. Randy, you haven't barely turned a lap today or this weekend, and now you get payback from Long Beach.
You know, life is just like that, isn't it? It goes up, it goes down. Yeah, the 3R crew has been working so hard on our Volvos, and it ran great in qualifying, but hell, I didn't even know which way turned left and which way turned right. And so it's a lucky break, and with the all-wheel drive of the Volvo S60R, I think we're going to have a good start, and I don't know how long I can hold these guys off, but I'm going for it.
Randy Pobst takes pole here at Mosport International Raceway.
Well, and after losing to the coin toss at Long Beach, he benefits here alongside Jason Daskalos, who missed the previous round at Jersey. Great to have him back. Andy Pilgrim, the winner at Jersey. Eric Kern going for an unprecedented hat trick, 3 in a row here. Brandon Davis gets his 4th fast qualifier. Dino Crescentini back for the first time after a big crash in Long Beach. Tony Rivera, always quick, but the team's struggling with qualifying setups a little bit. Usually comes good in the race. James Safronis has always struggled here, even though the win at Long Beach. See if he can sort of get that cleared out. Tony Gaples, Gunter Schaldock, good to have Gunter back as well. Been working on damaged cars. And Bill Ziegler will start in pit lane in the Swisher Racing Corvette. Time to go. Racing in GT. Lights are out. Away we go. Pobst on the inside, but Jason Daskalos and the Daskalos Developments Viper, that big V10, boy, did he get a nice launch. He is along the outside, and Tom picks up the lead.
Jason Daskalos picks up the lead over Randy Pobst, but Randy Pobst comes down the hill and has that momentum. Let's see what he does on the inside of turn number 3.
Heading in, Daskalos and Pobst sticks the nose in there side by side at the apex of 3. The rest of the field streams through, but looks as though Daskalos is going to have the inside line into 4. He does, but Brandon Davis has moved up and snuck around Andy Pilgrim, slots into 3rd, and I think you just learned right there, Daskalos did that. If you don't want a guy like Pobst in your house, you can't even leave that door open a little.
No, you can't. He'll come in, sit down at the kitchen table, open a beer, and spend 2.5 hours telling about his favorite race weekend. That's why we love Randy Pobst.
Absolutely, and take a look here, right there. I thought he had a pretty good run out of that hairpin. Brandon Davis puts the V8 grunt of that Applied Computer Solutions Sun Microsystems Mustang to good use and just scooted right around the outside of Randy Pobst. And Tom, that's horsepower and displacement.
You know, that is an incredible display by Brandon Davis, but we had a whole lot going on during that first lap. Let's take advantage of our instant replay and look at some of this, Greg. Now let's start here with Randy Pobst. Gets a decent launch with the Volvo S60R, but there is the nose of Jason Daskalos, and Randy says, let's not crash in the first corner of the first of 30 laps. Let's just see how this works out. Knows he can carry some momentum over the hill and lines up behind Jason Daskalos. Now watch this move here. We saw it earlier. He simply clips the second apex a little bit later and uses that momentum to go rocketing down the inside.
Wasn't able to get it completed, though. Jason doing a nice job, hung tough right around the outside, which of course gives him the inside for that very daunting fall away turn 4. And again, Tom, as you alluded to, Randy Pobst knows way too early in the race to do something silly that could wad him up or maybe more, and so he let it go. Now we hop on board with Pilgrim.
Andy Pilgrim gets a good start as well, but as a spectator here, goes left, goes a little bit right, decides not to get mixed up in this, but lines up behind his teammate Randy Pobst. The both of them get a great launch off of turn number 1, and now watch Andy Pilgrim's point of view as he looks over the crest of turn number 2. He's got a decision to make here. Does he get on a little bit earlier and try to follow his partner through, or does he wait to see how it turns out? He does a little of both and sees this unfolding and says, I don't want any part of this either, Greg.
Well, we're giving you all these looks at the start, one, because the start is so crucial, and because of the standing start, so much happens, and it certainly did here. And then you see that's just a great run by Brandon Davis, was able to sweep the outside of Andy Pilgrim, being a little more brave. And as Andy had to make room for him, guess who sticks the nose in? Tony Rivera in that Taxmasters Porsche just drives right down the inside, under braking for Moss. Now we're going to go back and watch the problems for Curran here, Tom.
Eric Curran is looking for a hat trick, as you said, but immediately he gets blown away by Dino Crescentini and that Taxmasters Porsche of Tony Rivera. As these guys go side by side on the exit of turn number 2, you can see Eric Curran's got no move here. He's actually out of the throttle a little bit, trying to see how it works out, catches up to the back of Dino Crescentini, but once you're there in the middle of 2, you've got no move.
And there you see from Tony Rivera's standpoint, Curran just almost parked, just could not get that Wheel and Engineering vet off the line, down underneath the Stop Tech Global Motorsports Group Porsche of Crescentini. And Tony Rivera, again, after struggling a little bit in qualifying, suddenly right there up into that top 5 and on the tail of Brandon Davis, and going to move up even more when the two of them went by Pilgrim. So much developing on the start.
It's important to note, Greg, on these standing starts, this is the only time in the entire weekend you get this perspective. Normally you're going about 135 miles an hour down the front straightaway. That's how you negotiate turn number 1. From a standing start, it's all different, and you only get to do it once. There is how Tony Rivera goes down the inside of Andy Pilgrim, who kind of got displaced by that big green and black Mustang.
Now we hop on board Tony Gaples in the Kleinschmidting Black Dog Racing Stabley Corvette, and right there, James Safronis, his woes at this track continue as he is dead stick off the line, and Tony, a nice piece of driving to avoid him, now tries to get underneath the Kenda tires, that green Viper of Jeff Courtney, and settles in right there. And Tom, it really is a mix. You've got all kinds of different equipment, different types of engine, different displacement, that all comes into play, and you see it come into play later in that lap. Brandon Davis swinging out, just driving by Randy Popes, that 4-cylinder turbo, just not quite there in terms of top end.
And as Joe Huffaker would agree, there's no substitute for horsepower, and Brandon Davis uses that horsepower to put himself solidly in second place, as we're really just still getting started here at Mosport International Raceway.
And Tom, we've had some changes technically for the Vipers. They get 10% less restrictor, so they're breathing a little better. The Volvos picked up a little weight after their dominant performance at New Jersey, so that's certainly going to play into the mix here. And earlier we mentioned the Kenda Tires Viper of Jeff Courtney. He missed New Jersey, but he was not going to miss Mosport.
I love the track. I think it's a driver's track. I think there's some really scary turns that keep your attention, which makes it exciting. Even for a driver, you want to be scared, I think, or knowing that you're going fast enough to be scared. I mean, obviously I respect all the drivers out here, so I'd like to beat them all, of course. But I just, in the last practice session in the rain, Andy Pilgrim came by me in the Volvo and just about sucked my mirrors off. So if it would rain and I could pass a Volvo, that would be about an amazing feat.
Yeah, well, Michael Galati in 2006 showed how unlikely that is.
Not going to happen, Jeff, but keep dreaming, pal.
Good thoughts, good thoughts. Yeah, Galati almost lapped the field, everybody up through second place in the rain here in 2006. But we are on board another Volvo, and he has got a great view watching the battle for the lead. He'd rather be in the midst of it, but he's close. Brandon Davis hounding Descalos, and you can see Tom Descalos protecting until the last second. He learned his lesson from Popes in that opening lap.
You know, this is the kind of track for the Dodge Viper, and it's the kind of track that Jason Dascalos really likes. Inside the Taxmasters car of Tony Rivera, as he runs up on the back bumper of the number 1 car, that's Randy Popst. He's going to take a look on the outside here, and now take a look down the inside. Tony Rivera has let Randy Popst know he's a factor in this race as well.
Yeah, he's definitely hounding him, no question, but up front it remains the great story of Jason Dascalos in the lead, but he has got a throng behind him. We'll be back. Back at Mosport, round 4, World Challenge GT, and we have a good one unfolding. You can throw the proverbial blanket over most of the field as they are putting on a great show, and Eric Curran trying to work his way up through the pack after that problematic start, trying to now get around the Stop Tech Brakes Global Motorsports Group Porsche of Dino Crescentini. Curran, that red and white Wheel and Engineering Corvette. We talked about, Tom, his hopes to be able to put together 3 in a row here. Never been done in any World Challenge class. Looking pretty tough today.
Well, he certainly looks racy here, but so does Dino Crescentini in the Porsche. You see Eric Curran trying to find a way around. There's your preferable line down turn number 4, hugging the bottom and getting set up for turn number 5. Oh, watch this. He's going to do the old in and out move, and Dino Crescentini never saw it coming. If you've done 1,000 laps at Mosport, and I have, all in last place, you get to learn that move.
So you're saying Dino just got schooled?
He just got schooled, and he won't let that happen again. You knew from the moment that the Whelan Engineering car jogged off to the left that he was going to try to diamond-shape Moss Corner. Works every time.
And we hop on board now with the 34 Tony Gaples, the Stabile Kleinschmidt Corvette. Beautiful silver vet as he heads out of turn 1.
And there's
he's
something
slowing
not right.
Big time.
Well, what's he going to do now, though? He's got no drive. He's headed down the hill in turn number 2. Well, I'll tell you, 9 guys out of 10 would have driven it off to the driver's right to try to be safe.
But that can sometimes put a car in peril. I think he's going for the cutout there on the left. Now, we were watching the battle that involved Dino Crescentini. Remember, his first race back since Long Beach, and there's a reason he's missed this series.
I love World Challenge over any other series because it's a high-performance sprint car format. I mean, I don't like driver changes. I don't like the longer endurance races. I love this format. I really do. People have said, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? There's nothing that can replace this. We have a lot of promise. We've got a new engineer this year, Steve Aruz, who came on last year to help us out, and we've got the momentum from last year going into this year. You can see the results with James right away. He's been doing excellent, and I'm prepared to do the same. I just need some luck.
Those fickle racing gods, and they've reached down and touched Gunter Schaldock in a negative way. He has driven straight off in that Lala Motorsports Viper into the tires. You can see the displacement of those tires. He's gone in there pretty hard, Tom.
There's nothing like tires to absorb the impact. Look at that. Ever worry about whether your Dodge Viper can take a good whack in the nose? There's your evidence. Gunter Schaldock simply drives away from about a 30-mile-an-hour collision through the gravel trap and into the tires of turn 9.
Meanwhile, we watched the Viper of Daskalos out front. Was going to mention for Schaldock a big crash Friday in practice, had to go to the backup car. He's going to be awful happy that didn't damage this car that badly. Now we're on board with Eric Kern as, once he got around Dino Crescentini, Tom, he is hustling that Whelan Corvette right up onto the back of Andy Pilgrim.
Well, you mentioned it a couple of times. He's won here twice, loves Mosport, and certainly has the equipment for it. The Chevrolet Corvette does work particularly well here. It's got that great combination of handling and horsepower.
But right now, the guy who has got things dialed at the front, again, what a beautiful shot up in a Moss hairpin. They really call it, 5A, B, and C, the exit being C. And it is a great sequence of corners named after one of the legends, and it is a track that has well earned it. Meanwhile, Daskalos, now he's actually starting to open it up over Davis.
Jason Daskalos has an opportunity to pull away here as Davis has to look over his shoulder from time to time as Randy Popst and that Taxmasters Porsche of Tony Rivera are right there.
Well, it's like Popst is on a bit of an accordion string. In the twisty bits, he goes right up toward the back of Davis in front of him. You get on the straights, he goes right back toward the nose of that Taxmasters Porsche. Again, horsepower versus handling, that great balance in World Challenge GT that the officials have really figured out when it comes to an all-around lap time. Great racing.
Look at that Dodge Viper, Ford Mustang, Volvo, Porsche. You've got 4 manufacturers up in the top 5. Hats off to SCCA Pro Racing. They've really pulled it off again in 09. They keep doing it again and again. This World Challenge Series is meant to see a lot of different marks in the same race. SCCA Pro Racing's got a knack for doing that.
Boy, they make it work, don't they? And keep in mind, like the touring car race we saw earlier, 3 different winners in the first 3 rounds. And we'll see what plays out right here. And there is the man, comes in here, 3 consecutive third-place finishes for Brandon Davis. And with Curran's DQ, that has him in the points lead. So at this point, Tom, are you thinking points, or are you thinking, I want to win this and get to the front?
Oh, it's hard to say. It's still early days, but Brandon Davis has never been the kind of guy to points race. If he thinks he can win this race, he's going to try to do it. And I'm reminded of that race we mentioned in the past here between him and Eric Curran in Colorado. He took out his teammate to win a race in front of not even his hometown, where he happened to be going to school that weekend. Brandon Davis is capable of just about anything here in World Challenge.
Well, that's true. You're not in these to finish second. And even though you do tend to keep an eye on the championship sometimes, it's just when you're hungry like this, you want to win. Oh, and a big off. That's Andy Pilgrim. Tom, you do not see that often.
No, Andy Pilgrim just doesn't make mistakes, but he gets into the apex a little bit early at one. That's going to take him outside, and he managed to do the whole thing without a lift and not lose that position to Curran. But Eric Curran's got every reason to be encouraged by that as he gets just a little bit closer to that K-Pax Volvo of Andy Pilgrim.
Trying to pressure him just a little bit. It may have paid off. Meanwhile, we're watching Popes in the team car right there in third. Then the pressure from Rivera, then Pilgrim. But look at this. This is what we're talking about. So close coming out of Moss to the back end of that Applied Computer Solutions Sun Micro Mustang of Davis. And now the acceleration run, and he just slips back just a little bit. It is that close the way this is working out right now. So Popes fighting to hang on to a podium. And Tony Rivera in that Taxmasters Porsche hasn't been on the podium since his win at Sebring. He'd like to earn one right here at a true test of a driver, Mosport. Back at Mosport, Greg Creamer along with Tom Natchew, World Challenge GT Round 4, and going wrong for Randy Popes. Suddenly slows coming out of turn 10.
Randy Popes has obviously got some kind of a problem. I don't think it's with drive. I think it's still running well, but I just don't know exactly what made him slow up like that. Meanwhile, he's already been gathered up by Tony Rivera in the Taxmasters Porsche and his teammate. We're going to have to follow Randy Popes through. And there's a view that no race driver wants as they all go streaming by Tony Gaples as he sits there hapless, watching as it goes on. Let's get back to this top three as we see the Daskalos car leading the Mustang, now the Porsche, and what becomes of Randy Popes now, Greg?
Well, it's going to be interesting. We'll see if we can find out what the issue is, but that allowed a little bit of a break here for those top three cars back to Pope's teammate, and let's go on board. Looks pretty good here, Tom.
Yeah, he comes in here, but right there's a little funny noise there. It sounds like something, it could have been with the transmission, but here is where it all falls apart. He loses any momentum that he's got, and doing the right thing. This is Randy Popes, one of the finest guys in the business. Moves over and lets that Taxmaster Porsche go straight by in the left. He knows he's got a problem. He's certainly not going to hold up a leader as he gets himself sorted out.
Well, he missed most of practice with a tranny issue. They got him out for qualifying and had a slight misfire, but they cleared that up. So maybe that has been revisited. We'll continue to check. But up front, I think a great story developing here. You know, you talk about the David and Goliath stories a lot in racing. And, you know, certainly some of these guys, they aren't the big factory guns, but they've got resource and they've got good programs behind them. Jason Daskalos, he and Sheldon Miller are the crew. Sheldon drives the truck, does the wrenching. Jason funds it and drives it. Their budget, Tom's not that big. They have to cherry pick races. This is a great story.
It really is. You know, he was a standout in the Viper Racing League. 14 wins in 23 starts and entered 9 races in 2007 with the Dodge Viper in World Challenge for his rookie season. His best finish was a 9th at Road Atlanta, and he earned the Pelote Rookie of the Race honors in that race. But he has been slowly moving up. And, you know, I've been kind of biased towards Jason Daskalos, but I've really wanted to see him on a podium. And now I think I might have the opportunity, Greg. But that green Mustang and Brandon Davis is going to have something to say before it's all over.
Yeah, he may be sympathetic, but he's not just going to give it away. He's going to do everything he can, as he said, very hungry here. And that's really producing some phenomenal racing into 9. You notice they throw the exit away of 9 a little bit to get the run for 10 because it leads you into that very quick section of track all the way down to turn 3. And Daskalos getting through there very well, and that gives him just a little bit of breathing room over Brandon Davis. And you notice Jason Daskalos right now in that Daskalos Development Viper, Tom, he still opens that door up a little bit, but I think he knows he's got the entry speed.
Well, he does, and if you leave the apex late in turn number 1, you carry so much more speed into turn number 2, and it takes a very brave man to go around the outside of turn number 2 when you're going somewhere around 135 miles an hour.
And the two of them have opened that up just a little bit over Tony Rivera in that Taxmasters Porsche right there, the orange car, and then Pilgrim in the K-Pax Volvo. So right now, Brandon doesn't have to worry about the mirrors too much, which means he can just be in full attack mode.
As you can see, that Daskalos car, absolutely no advertising on the sides of that car. He's doing this on his own dime. He's a married guy with 2 kids in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and right now he has an opportunity to top one of the best sprint format racing series on the planet.
Meanwhile, we're going back in the order just a little bit. Sonny Whelan in the team car to Eric Kern, the Whelan Engineering vet, being hounded in the Global Motorsports Group Porsche by James Safronis, and his problems at Mosport continue. He loops it late in the going here. You know, he's been here 12 times. He's only at 2 top 5s, the last one coming in 2006. This is a guy who won at Long Beach. Some tracks just aren't friendly.
Well, James Safronis is way better than he's showing here, and it will play out in the championship. He'll be a part of this, but look at this. It is Dodge and Ford 1-2 as they cross the start-finish line for one of the last times here at Mosport. Brandon Davis has got ahead of steam, and he's coming on big time.
Boy, he is all over the back of him, and once again, you take a look, 4 different manufacturers in this top 4. Just awesome stuff. 5 different in the top 5 for that matter, if you look at it that way. But the focus right now on this top 2, can Daskalos earn his first win, or will Brandon Davis be able to find a way by? Oh, this is great stuff, and going right to the very end with this.
Hitting all his marks at the top of turn number 4, giving himself a chance to get around here. Coming at a 5 with a lot of momentum, and you see he makes up a car length there on that Huffaker-powered Ford Mustang. But look at all of that real estate slip away as the Ford Mustang makes it up in the top end.
As we're closing in on the end of this great battle, it is Daskalos hanging on over Brandon Davis. It's down to those 2 for the win. The podium still undecided. We'll find out. Last lap at Mosport, World Challenge GT Round 4, and Jason Daskalos has thus far been able to fend off a very persistent Brandon Davis, who takes it right to the edge of the exit curve at the exit of 1, throwing everything at it right now, Tom, to try and find a way by this very, very quick Viper.
You know, this is an opportunity to win his first race. Jason Daskalos has that feeling. He's hearing every pop and sound in that car. He's trying not to make a mistake, looks ahead and he thinks, oh no, here comes traffic. Gunter Schaldak, a professional racing driver, he's not going to want any part of this. Hopefully he'll have a chance to get out of the way. Yeah, Greg, no problem. And he'll just move off to the driver's left. And these guys will finish this in 8.
Oh, but Brandon did get a little bit better run out of 5 and really straight-lined it. Got to the throttle early. He is close. He is tucked up. Just less than a car length now, picking that draft up. There's Schaldak, as you pointed out, moves over. Davis picking it up just a little bit, shows the nose. Not there. Into turn 8. Closes up even more. Can he try and sweep underneath going into 9?
That's the move. He's going to try to use it. Carry some momentum into White's corner. Turn number 10. Can he do it?
So close, but Daskalos shuts the door. Big wiggle. He hangs on to it. He wins. Unbelievable story, Tom.
Jason Daskalos finally gets a podium, and his very first podium ever in World Challenge is on the very top step. Cindy, Eliana, and Petros at home are excited.
Oh, the Daskalos family should be. What a great drive Dad put in. An awesome run. And I'll tell you what, I would suspect, Tom, the other guy, as we take a look at the results with Davis and Rivera, as he's back on the podium, Pilgrim close, Eric Kern, boy, just not able to get that 3rd straight, but some great racing nonetheless. But for Jason Daskalos, I bet you one of the happiest guys in the track is a guy named Sheldon Miller.
Well, of course, and he is the one guy, and I mean this, the one guy who wrenches on that car. So as Jason Daskalos does his dance in front of the worthy fans down in turn number 5, we'll catch up to him in Victory Circle.
All right, Sheldon! Whoa, man! Woo-hoo!
All right, 1, 2, 3, get it up in the air, let's go! And then Shuffle is the new guy, come on!
It was great. I mean, I got Randy off the start, and he had a little bobble on the start. Was able to get by him, and I had a rearview mirror of Mustang the whole race. I mean, Brandon was right on me the whole time. Luckily, I think Randy was giving him some pressure, which allowed me to break free a little bit. But that Dodge Viper ran wonderful today. I want to thank Sheldon for his hard work. I mean, that's the hardest working guy in the paddock. The hardest working guy. So.
Well, he points out it's a team sport, and he's got a good one. A small one, but a good one. Here are the points. Brandon Davis with that great finish opens his margin up a little bit. Rivera and Pilgrim. Manufacturer's battle. Porsche loses a little ground. due to that great finish of Davis in the Ford. Jason Daskalos enjoying a lap of honor, well earned, a great race. Next race for both the touring cars and the GT cars will be at another legendary venue, Watkins Glen. Make sure and join us there. For Tom Natchew, I'm Greg Kramer. Take care, everybody.